Let's take a closer look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron AAT battle tank.
Villa Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron AAT battle tank. This one is from Series 2. So this one is not a chase, no foil sticker or launch edition on it, but nonetheless it was still very sought after locally. We only saw this one and then it vanished. I think people might be army building this one for a bit of a droid army for their collection. We have the classic silver foil across the front, AAT battle tank. This one is number 0039. So let's take a quick look at the packaging before I open it up. I'm super excited to have a look at this one close up. We have one minifigure with this vehicle, a battle droid. Interestingly, this one is more of an orangey red, like the ones that we see in the Geonosis arena in Attack of the Clones, even though this one is a little bit more of giving me Phantom Menace vibes with the pale cream color. So I'm thinking it's possibly more of a Clone Wars variation that we have here. If this was Phantom Menace, I'd expect more of a yellow battle droid there. But anyway, we can see that it is designed to fit into a cockpit. Some of the figures fit into the cockpits easier than others, so we'll see how that goes. We have some cool vehicle artwork there on the side, inside that bubble there. On the back, pretty classic Jazwares packaging. We have a graphic here of the vehicle with some of the moving features there. We should be able to spin that top one and fit the figure in the top. We have the cut out and keep collectible blueprint if you don't keep your packaging. This is a fun little way of just having a little reference card that you say you don't need to keep the whole thing. We can see some of the other ships from the Series 2 line. Let me know which ones you have. The chasers are definitely hard to find. We've got a few of these. Some of these we're still on the hunt for. This AAT battle tank is part of the Starfighter class, so alongside the likes of the Gauntlet Fighter and the Snowspeeder. And we can see that in the style of packaging. It's not one of the big box ones. Classic Jazwares text underneath, and we can see just more of the packaging art just in the back there, but we'll get a better look when we take that bubble off. So let's get stuck in and open it up. Okay, so I have removed the bubble off the backing card, so let's dive in and get the starship out so we can take a closer look. We can also get a better look at that back art, which looks pretty cool. We've got a little bit of a Geonosis kind of scene here with the AAT battle tank there. We've got a Republic gunship flying in there, and we've even got some clone troopers on walkers in there as well. I think that's pretty cool. Sometimes the artwork in the packaging doesn't quite match the vehicle inside. This one definitely does. So I'm going to pop that off to the side and let's take a closer look at the vehicle. So just get this little figure out. I love these little capsules. They keep the figure very safe so I don't accidentally lose them. Let's see how easily this one's going to pop out for me today. Phew, okay, that one was a little harder. There was quite a big lip there that was stopping that one from coming out. Okay, the first thing that I noticed that this one has a stand on it. It's got a clear stand. I guess it's just a little bit prone to tipping over. That's interesting. There's not very many vehicles outside of the small mystery box ones that come with stands. This one looks like it is permanently affixed in there. That's quite interesting. I don't know why. I guess because it's packaged in like that, you didn't really see that there is like a clear stand. But it does have sort of wheels. In here we've got some clear wheels, so you can roll it along. Because yeah, this is one of the few that's sort of a true ground vehicle, despite the fact that it's in the Starfighter class. Most of the other ones that I have in my collection so far are the ones that you predominantly see flying, you know, X-Wings, TIE Fighters and things like that. And they have tiny little landing gear. This one, of course, we see it on the ground. We don't see it flying. So let's take a look at the paint job. As I mentioned earlier, we only ever saw this one once, so I didn't have ones to choose between on the store shelf. It was get the one that was in front of me or miss out. So I didn't get to pick on a paint job. So we can see that it has a little bit of a brown wash over the details. I see it particularly accented here at the front. Little bit of an even wash here on the front, which I am liking. We particularly see it up here at the top. But overall, maybe a little bit of a splotch here in the corner, but that's not the worst I've seen. Overall, that's a pretty good wash. Goes all the way down and just minimally on the underside. But again, this is going to be right up against your shelf. You're never really going to see it, but I can just kind of see where it's gone over the edges there. But overall, a pretty good paint job. We've obviously got these big sort of black lines there from where the turrets are here at the front. So let's take a closer look at the moving features of this. Obviously, we have wheels on the bottom, no landing gear. I think it's interesting that we've got wheels here, and then this is just straight plastic, so it kind of makes a bit of a noise when you roll it across the desk. But anyway, we've got that top turret that can move. It said 180 degrees, and it kind of hits a stopping point there as expected. You know, so it doesn't swing freely all the way around. It stops there, won't point backwards. I'm curious to see, yeah, okay, so we've got some good articulation up here that goes to straight up, maybe just a little bit past that. I think it's interesting that the antenna are sculpted with a little bit of a web between the two. They're not separate. Perhaps they thought that that would snap too easily with that sort of webbing there, but honestly that's a little bit of a shame that they're not sculpted separately. We've got movement here on the side turrets, nice and easy. They kind of hit a point about there, so they go not quite all the way up, but you can point them down, though obviously you probably wouldn't pose them like that, but good posability there. So let's check out the cockpits. We've got one here at the front. Let's see how easily this is to get open. Okay, we can open that there, and we can see that front cockpit that has some pretty good weathering in there. You can see where the dark has sort of pooled there. It'll be interesting to see how well the battle droid figure will fit in there, because this doesn't have a clear window. It almost doesn't matter if you can't get them in there. Good place to store them, but they're not visible when that hatch is closed. So whether or not they fit in there is not too bad. Some of them, like Boba Fett's starship with that big front cockpit, it really matters that you can fit them in there. That one looks tiny, but that's a standing up cockpit, so you don't need to do that little fiddly thing with bending their legs to get them to sit down. You can just get them all the way in there. And I think it's fascinating the way that they weather the vehicles from this line with like all the doors and everything open, well, you know, separately and then assembled, so you get all this weathering on the inside as well. I don't know how well you can see that in there. It's all weathered, so pretty easy to get into those cockpits. There's only just those two, one there and there. It's almost a shame it doesn't come with two figures, so you can put one in each cockpit, but again, you can't see them when the doors are closed, so it doesn't really matter. So let's get that figure out and take a closer look at that one. Okay, so the classic battle droid, this one is sort of an orangey red, so it is not a Phantom Menace variant here. So it's kind of interesting that they haven't gone with the Phantom Menace for this classic vehicle that was introduced in that film. This one is more of a Clone Wars Geonosis type variant. So as I would expect, this one, it doesn't really have a paint job to speak of. It is basically cast in one single tone plastic. And there is no painted details to him. He's just the same thing all over. And I have to say, this is the loosest figure from the Jazwares line that I have come across. His legs swing quite easily there. So kind of glad he's not really going to be visible. And that cockpit in the back, he's going to be able to stand up in, because it'll be interesting to see how well I can get him in there, because his legs almost swing. They're kind of loose there, so I'm going to try them in the back cockpit first. I've left them open because these are not hard to open, but they're just a little bit stiff on the hinges, as you might expect. So let's see, there's a little split sort of plastic in there that goes between the legs, so it helps support the figure. And he stands in there pretty well, and this is a domed cockpit lid, so he should fit just sort of neatly underneath, and he's in there pretty well. So then I can open him up again, and you can just sort of see him poking out the top, and he just lifts out pretty easily. So let's have a look and see how well I can get him to sit in this spot. So get his little arms up in the classic sort of pilot position there, and let's see how well he sits in here. No clips or anything in this, like some of them, to kind of keep them in position. He wants to kind of slide around. I'm going to put him down so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better here. He wants to kind of just fall around. He just kind of perches there. As soon as I move, he just kind of rattles around. So you can kind of put him in there, but he's just gonna sort of rattle around. So I wonder what he's gonna look like if I open it up now. And this one is a little bit tighter. It's not too bad, but honestly, he just falls out. But yeah, I've noticed on some of the starships, like the Marauder, with those little clips that go around sort of the waist to keep figures in, they can be kind of hard to maneuver. This one has got to be the thinnest character I've come across, because obviously it's a battle droid. They're very thin and spindly. But yeah, a clip would possibly hold them in there a little bit better, but again, it doesn't really matter when they're sitting in there, because the door is just going to close completely, and you're not really going to see anything once that cockpit's closed. So just going to take him out because I'm worried he's just going to get rattled around. Not that there's paint job in there to worry about, but yeah. Obviously, you don't need the figure in here at all for it to display quite nicely. I'm just quite intrigued by the weathering, the way that it's just kind of created this little sort of, like, the dirt and dust has kind of collected along this front edge. I really, really like that. I think that that's quite a fun touch. You know, you never can quite tell how the weathering is going to sort of appear. We have got these sort of painted brown sections here. Now that I'm sort of taking the time to sort of look at the details, we can sort of see the painted details here and the sort of weathering. I'm really happy that the weathering is pretty even on this. I was worried because of such a pale color, it would make it look quite dirty and blotchy. You know, we've got some pooling here at the front, but it's quite even on both sides, so it looks very intentional. And the way that it has sat in this groove around here, really highlighting the design sculpting here. I think that's really quite nice, and the way that it is pretty even. Obviously, we've got a little bit more of a wash here. In some areas, it kind of looks more like dust because of the way we get this tiny little dotting. In other places, it looks more wet, more like a sort of a, you know, quite a wet wash put on. Overall, I think this is really cool. I'm still kind of fascinated why they put this on, because we know from, you know, most of sort of the larger scale ones like Hasbro, they don't have stands like this. Perhaps they're able to put more of a heavier weight in the front to keep it from tipping backwards. Perhaps just, yeah, this is fairly light. There's not a lot of weight to it. So perhaps they felt like it needed just a little bit of something. It doesn't feel like it would tip backwards, but I guess they felt that this would. And if you, depending on the pose on the shelf, you won't see it. If you pose it to the side, you will. So I don't know if that's a deal breaker for some people. I know that for some of the other starships, particularly the Jedi Starfighter with the hyperdrive ring, I really wish that there was a stand, because you cannot pose that thing with the ring on. It just rolls everywhere. So for some of the ships, I really wish that there was a stand so I could pose it. Boba Fett's starship, Slave 1, would be really cool if I could display it upright rather than on its landing gear. So I think a stand there would be good. So I guess we could just say that this is just a built-in stand. But yeah, it's not one that you can take off. It's pretty well fixed in there, at least on my one. It doesn't look glued, but it probably is, because that is just not budging, and I don't want to break that. But I like, you know, it's got all the movement you could possibly want from this classic prequel era vehicle. I'm glad that they are diving in. I really want to put together a whole sort of Clone Wars, you know, clones versus droids scene. There are so many vehicles on both sides. You know, you've got the gunship. I want more droid ones, you know, the spider tanks and things like that. I think it'd be really, really cool because it's very, very hard to do in a larger scale, like with the Hasbro 4-inch. You know, it's very hard to build a big Clone Wars scene with all the vehicles, but we can do it in this Jazwares Micro Galaxy scale with this Squadron line. I think that that's really, really cool. I would have loved to have been able to pick up a second one. Perhaps we will get a subtle variant with a different paint scheme, because we do see a few with different colors throughout the Clone Wars, so perhaps we'll get some more variations down the line so I can add a few more to my collection. But overall, a fantastic vehicle, and I'm really glad to have it in my Micro Galaxy Squadron collection. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out our other videos for more Micro Galaxy Squadron unboxings and more Star Wars fun. See you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.